Well, the International Olympic Committee has agreed to a new gender policy, effectively banning trans women athletes from women's events at the Olympics. The policy aligns with an executive order signed by the US President Donald Trump on sport ahead of the 2028 Los Angeles Games. Tracey Holmes is the host of the Sports Ambassador podcast, and she joins me now from Sydney. Very good morning to you, Tracey. Thank you for your time. Can you take me through the justification, the IOC's justification for this?
Yeah, and I think it's very important to recognise that, all of the headlines and a lot of the discussion is around transgender athletes. In the history of the Olympic Games, as far as we know, there's been one transgender athlete who competed, and that was the New Zealand weightlifter Laurel Hubbard back in Tokyo 2020, and she didn't even finish her competition. She finished at the bottom of all of those competitors. But this has a much heavier impact on the DSD athletes. And if I can just explain that very simply, people will be familiar with Caster Semenya. She's a two-time Olympic champion, 800-metre runner from South Africa, who basically sort of rose to prominence in this space because she has an intersex category, or what people describe as a difference of sex development, DSD athletes. So they're not one or the other, they fit somewhere in this spectrum. And these are the athletes that are going to be most harshly penalised through this new policy. So the IOC says it is based very much on the latest scientific research, but also consensus. They said they went widely out to their athletic cohort across a variety of countries and asked for their advice too, and they feel that they are putting this policy in place for the benefit of a majority of the athletes. Now, we know that consensus also means that minorities end up being sidelined somewhat, and this is what's happened here. And people that work with advocates in this area are basically saying that the science is contested and there's still a lot of work to be done. However, this is the new policy and this is what will happen.
What has the reaction to it been so far, Tracey?
Well, split, very much along those lines. So there are many people that have been arguing for this. A lot of women, especially the older women who have been competing in the early days when they really had to struggle to get numbers into the Olympics and to be taken seriously across a variety of sports. And, concerns about transgender athletes taking women's places in sport. We haven't actually seen that play out in the numbers. But coming back to the DSD athletes, yes, there's a much larger percentage. And we also need to think about the fact that, a lot of these women come from areas across Africa, in India, where the technology and the medical attention is not the same as in countries like ours. And so there's all of those difficulties that need to be worked through. And so what happens is people who will now be penalised by this, many women who were born as women, given a female birth certificate, raised as women in their communities, then find out through a test to enable them to be able to play sport that they are not fully female. They are in this mid-range category, and that can cause all sorts of dilemma and can be quite catastrophic. We've seen athletes in the past who've been caught up under these sorts of regulations with World Athletics attempting suicide. It's been really catastrophic. And so the questions to the IOC today, quite a few of them were about what has been put in place to look after those people when they find that they're not who they think they are and will therefore not be able to compete as they had done previously.
Tracey Holmes, many thanks for joining me. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine.